Hello and welcome to another episode of Digital Pulse. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of asexuality.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. You've given us some really interesting source material,
Yeah.
including excerpts from the book Beyond Desire, Understanding Asexuality in the Modern World,
Okay.
and a research paper
Oh, wow.
titled Transformational Resistance and Identity Development, a case study of an asexual woman engineer.
Really compelling stuff, especially how these sources challenge all those preconceived notions we have about desire
Right.
and relationships. They really show that asexuality, well, it's not a lack of something,
Right.
but it's really its own unique orientation.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this.
Good.
What exactly is asexuality? Beyond Desire seems a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. The book defines asexuality as a lack of sexual attraction toward others, but, and this is important to emphasize, it's a distinct sexual orientation.
Right.
It's not a disorder, not a phase, and definitely not some indication of being broken.
You know, it feels like our culture, it's
Yes.
so fixated on sexual attraction and desire that it's hard to wrap our heads around a sexuality that exists outside of that.
Yeah, and that's precisely why these clear definitions are important.
Right.
Asexuality challenges all those norms, those deeply ingrained societal norms. It forces us to confront the assumptions we make. You know, the assumptions that everyone experiences attraction the same way.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Beyond Desire dives into this,
Me too.
the spectrum of asexuality, and it highlights the diversity within this orientation. So, for example, you have individuals who identify as gray-asexual.
Okay.
They might experience sexual attraction very rarely or only under certain circumstances.
Oh, I see.
You know, imagine someone who only feels sexually attracted to someone after developing deep trust over time.
Oh, so it's more nuanced than just never feeling sexual attraction.
Yeah.
There's a whole gradient.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And then there's demisexuality, which adds another layer.
Okay. Demisexual individuals only experience sexual attraction after forming a strong emotional bond.
Interesting.
So think of it as attraction that follows that DEMP connection, rather than preceding it.
Wow, that's really interesting. It highlights how interwoven emotions and attraction can be.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into all these different identities, let's clear up a common misconception.
Okay.
What's the difference between asexuality and aromanticism?
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. Asexuality is specifically about the absence of sexual attraction.
Right.
Aromanticism refers to the absence of romantic attraction. So it's possible to be asexual but still experience romantic attraction and want relationships. You know, ones that prioritize emotional connection over sexual aspects.
And the reverse is true, too. Someone could be aromantic but still experience sexual attraction.
Exactly. Attraction exists on multiple dimensions, and it's not always a package deal.
Right.
This actually reminds me of Kayla in the research paper.
Oh, yeah.
She felt more comfortable with her gender identity as a woman than with her asexuality. Oh, what do you think that was?
It seemed like her gender identity, being more visible, had more established support systems.
Okay.
You know, her university had programs and networks for women in engineering. But for her asexuality, those support systems were less apparent, making it harder to fully embrace and express that part of herself.
That must have been challenging. It shows how crucial visibility and representation are. Speaking of representation, to zoom out a bit, Beyond Desire emphasizes that asexuality isn't new.
Right.
It's been around throughout history and in different cultures.
Yeah, what fascinates me is how differently asexuality has been understood and expressed across societies.
Yeah.
Take Japan's hikikomori phenomenon, for example.
Okay.
This involves individuals, often young adults, withdrawing from social life,
Ah.
sometimes isolating themselves in their homes
Wow.
for extended periods.
Interesting.
While there are many factors at play, some researchers suggest that for some asexuality and the societal pressures surrounding it could be a contributing factor.
So we're not just talking about different labels, but potentially different societal responses to non-normative sexualities.
Exactly. And it's not just a modern phenomenon.
Right.
Think about the ancient philosophy of Stoicism.
Okay.
Stoics emphasized reason and self-control, advocating moderation in all things, including sexual desire. They didn't use the term asexual,
Right.
but their philosophy resonates with some aspects of the asexual experience.
It goes to show that asexuality has always existed, even if it wasn't explicitly named or categorized in the same way. Really a universal aspect of human diversity.
Totally. That brings us to another key point.
Which is?
the personal and transformative nature of coming out as asexual.
Okay.
Kayla's experience in the research paper really sheds light on this, especially in a field like engineering.
Yeah, it sounds like she was apprehensive about the reactions, worried about being misunderstood or not taken seriously.
Oh, absolutely. She even hesitated to seek out LGBTQ plus communities because she wasn't sure how she'd be received as an asexual individual. This fear of constantly having to defend and explain her identity is something many asexual people can relate to.
It really emphasizes the need for greater awareness and understanding, both within and outside LGBTQ plus spaces. It's about creating environments where people feel safe and supported to explore and express their full selves.
And Kayla's experience also brings up another dimension.
Which is?
How does asexuality navigate the world of relationships?
Okay.
Beyond desire delves into this as well,
Yeah.
emphasizing that asexuality doesn't preclude meaningful relationships,
But
both romantic and non-romantic.
That's such a crucial point, because it challenges those societal scripts we're all fed
Right.
about relationships.
Hey,
What's normal?
Yeah.
It really expands our definition of intimacy.
Exactly.
So let's talk about romantic relationships first.
Okay.
How does asexuality factor into those dynamics?
Well, it's important to acknowledge that asexual individuals can and do engage in romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And these relationships can be just as fulfilling and loving as any other. You know, it's about recognizing that intimacy can take many forms.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be sexual.
It's about those shared experiences,
Yeah.
emotional connections, those deep bonds that go beyond the physical.
Exactly. An asexual person might be perfectly happy cuddling,
Uh-huh.
holding hands,
Yeah.
expressing affection with their partner without feeling the need for sexual intimacy.
Right.
And a supportive partner would understand and respect that.
Communication is key in any relationship.
Oh, totally.
But it seems even more crucial in navigating the complexities of asexuality.
Absolutely. If both partners are open and honest about their feelings, desires, and boundaries,
Yeah.
it can create a really strong foundation for a healthy relationship.
Exactly. And it's not just about romantic relationships either.
Right.
Asexuality can also influence friendships and family dynamics.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that before.
Really?
Yeah. Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure. An asexual person might have a different understanding of intimacy
Okay.
than their allosexual friends or family members.
Okay.
For example, they might prioritize spending quality time together,
Ah.
engaging in shared hobbies, or simply enjoying deep conversations.
Those are all incredibly valuable forms of connection
Yeah.
and intimacy.
Holy.
It's about recognizing and appreciating those diverse expressions, both within and outside of romantic relationships.
Absolutely.
Speaking of expanding our understanding of relationships,
Okay.
let's shift gears a bit and talk about how asexuality is portrayed in popular culture.
Okay.
Books, movies, TV shows, the whole shebang.
This is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
Beyond Desire has a whole chapter on this,
Uh-huh.
asexuality and popular culture.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a mixed bag.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, there's definitely been progress.
Huh.
We're seeing more asexual characters in media than ever before,
That's great.
which is fantastic for visibility and representation.
Right. But you said it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
What are some of the downsides?
Unfortunately, many portrayals still rely on stereotypes and misconceptions.
Like?
Sometimes asexual characters are depicted as cold, emotionless, or even robotic.
Oh, wow.
It plays into that idea that they lack something essential to being human.
Which we know is completely untrue.
Exactly.
Asexual individuals experience a full range of emotions, just like anyone else.
Yeah, it's about challenging those limited perspectives.
Okay.
Another common trope is portraying asexuality as a temporary phase
Oh.
or a result of some past trauma.
Interesting.
It's like some writers just can't grasp asexuality as a valid and permanent orientation.
Yeah, these portrayals, even if unintentional, can be really damaging.
Right.
They perpetuate stigma and make it harder for asexual individuals to feel seen and understood.
For sure.
So what can we do to improve the representation of asexuality in popular culture?
We need more diversity in the stories being told. We need to move beyond those simplistic and often harmful tropes and really show the multifaceted nature of asexuality.
Right.
The different identities, the different experiences, the different ways people navigate relationships.
It's about portraying asexuality with the same depth and nuance as any other identity.
Absolutely. And to do that, we need more asexual writers, directors, producers
Okay.
involved in creating these stories.
Right.
It's about having authentic voices behind the scenes to ensure accurate and nuanced representation.
Because when people see themselves reflected in the stories they consume, it can be so validating.
Exactly. It's like saying you're not alone, you're seen, you're understood.
And that feeling of being seen and understood can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Especially for those who often feel marginalized.
Totally.
You know, it's not just about improving individual well-being.
Right.
It's about changing those societal perceptions.
It's about dismantling those deeply ingrained biases and creating a more inclusive and accepting world.
It's about recognizing that expanding our understanding of sexuality ultimately broadens our understanding of what it means to be human.
Well said. Now let's talk about the role of activism and advocacy in all of this.
Okay.
Beyond Desire highlights the work being done by organizations like the Asexual Visibility and Education Network.
AV.
AV for short.
For those who might not know, could you explain a bit about what AVIN does?
Of course, AVIN is a fantastic resource for information and support.
Okay.
Their website is amazing.
Yeah.
For anyone wanting to learn more about asexuality or connect with others, they've been so instrumental in pushing for greater recognition and acceptance of asexuality through awareness campaigns, educational resources, and lobbying for policy changes.
It's really inspiring to see their impact,
Yeah.
especially considering they're a relatively small organization.
It really shows the power of collective action.
Right. And it's not just about organized efforts.
Right.
Individual acts of advocacy can be just as impactful. So what are some ways listeners can be advocates for asexuality in their own lives?
Something as simple as having open and honest conversations with friends and family
About
asexuality.
Okay.
You know, it's about challenging those misconceptions and stereotypes that we all encounter.
Right.
It's about creating space for dialogue and understanding. The more we talk about asexuality, the more normalized it becomes.
Normalization leads to acceptance and ultimately to inclusion.
Exactly. Speaking of moving forward, let's look ahead.
Okay.
What does the future hold for asexuality?
Good question.
Beyond Desire ends on a hopeful note.
Okay.
Discussing the growing momentum of the asexuality movement and the increasing visibility.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's still challenges ahead.
Of course, stigma and misconceptions are really ingrained.
Right.
And it takes time to shift those societal attitudes. And we talked about the need for better representation in media.
Yes.
But despite these challenges, there's a real sense of optimism. More and more people are becoming aware of and accepting of asexuality.
And with continued advocacy and education, we can create a world where everyone feels seen, valued, and respected, regardless of their sexual orientation.
That's the goal.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. And while we're not there yet, the progress that's been made is truly inspiring.
So what are some specific areas where asexual individuals hope to see change?
That's a great question. What kind of future are they envisioning? Many are advocating for more inclusive sex education programs. You know, the current curriculum often focuses almost entirely on heterosexual relationships and sexual activity, leaving little room for diverse experiences like asexuality.
So it's about expanding those conversations
Right.
to acknowledge that there are many different ways to experience attraction in relationships.
Right.
And that there's no one right way to be.
Exactly. Another key area is healthcare.
Okay.
A lot of asexual individuals report feeling misunderstood or dismissed by healthcare providers who just aren't familiar with asexuality.
Right.
Imagine going to the doctor for something totally unrelated
Okay.
and having your orientation pathologized
Wow.
just because it doesn't fit the norm.
It's got to be so frustrating.
It is, and it underscores the need for healthcare professionals to receive more training on this asexuality so they can provide sensitive and informed care.
It's about recognizing that asexuality is not a medical condition that needs fixing.
Exactly.
It's a natural variation of human sexuality.
Right. And finally, there's a call for greater representation in research.
Okay.
You know, there's still so much we don't know
About
asexuality.
Right.
And more research is needed to really deepen our understanding.
It's about moving beyond those harmful stereotypes.
Yeah.
And gaining a more accurate picture of the asexual experience.
Exactly. And with more research, we can better address the specific needs and challenges
Faced by asexual individuals.
Yes, this has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It really has.
The asexuality movement is gaining momentum, and it's exciting to see what positive changes are ahead.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what's one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with? Something to ponder as they go about their day.
If you're walking away from this with just one idea, I hope it's this.
Yeah.
Asexuality, like all identities within the LGBTQ plus spectrum, deserves our respect and understanding.
Absolutely.
Challenge those assumptions, attraction and relationships.
Okay.
Embrace the beauty of diversity.
Beautifully said.
Okay.
This deep dive has challenged my own assumptions.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more inclusive world.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of asexuality.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this deep dive has left you with a richer understanding of asexuality and its place in the tapestry of human experience.